Hi everyone, it's Marla here, and welcome back to my channel. I did take a break over the holidays to spend time with my family, and it was wonderful. I hope that you had a wonderful holiday as well. This week's video is going to be a little bit shorter because just a few days after Christmas I came down with the worst flu I've had in months and was literally flat on my back for the better part of 6 days. However, I wanted to make sure I got a video out this week. I'm not sure what time it's going to post because sometimes videos take a long time to download for me. But anyway, I did manage to pull 3 things from my stash and upcycle them yesterday. I love how they turned out. I hope you will like them as well. Thanks for joining me. For project 1, I grabbed this candlestick that I've had in my garage for I don't know how long. Probably thrifted it sometime last year. I decided I was going to paint it up, and here I was trying to choose which color I wanted to use. It was between Alchemy's birch, white oak, and alabaster. I also grabbed DIY's faded burlap, but that was a little dark, so I ended up going with the alabaster. I wanted to create kind of an aged stone look on this, so I'm covering it pretty thoroughly with the alabaster paint, but if I miss I can't talk today, I'm sorry. If I miss a few spots, it didn't really matter to me because I knew this was going to be distressed back. I hadn't really decided if I wanted to keep it as a candlestick or if I wanted to use it as a riser. In the end, I decided it would make a beautiful riser, and so that's what I did, turned it into a riser. To distress it back to the original gray that it was, I just used a wet shop towel to wipe back some of the paint. Generally, if I'm going to wet distress, I use Debbie's DIY because Alchemy has a little bit of acrylic in it, but this worked out just fine. After I was done with the base, I grabbed this round cutting board I had painted with milk paint a long time ago and then just had never decided what to do with it. I tried to sand it smooth with just a little sanding disc, but eventually I took it outside and used my battery-operated sander on it, my hand sander, and got it much smoother. I also decided that I didn't want the background to be alabaster like the base, but I did want it to be something that would go with the alabaster, and so I used alabaster as the color to lighten this blue rather than white. This is Fusion's Heirloom Blue. I knew which transfers I wanted to use on it, and I did want them to have kind of a pale sky blue background. It only took one coat of this paint mixture, and so after I had the top painted, I did go around the edges of the disc, and I used alabaster so it would blend in with the base. Once I had both pieces painted, then I decided to glue the 2 pieces together. So I traced around the top of the candlestick on the bottom of my wood round, and then I went into that ring and used a paintbrush to apply some wood glue. This is Titebond wood glue. And then I did the same thing to the top of the candlestick, adding a nice layer of glue around it, but not too much because I didn't want it oozing out. Once the glue had dried, I got out one of my favorite IOD transfer books. This is called Rose Botanical, and it's just full of large pages of nothing but roses. And so I went through the book and I picked out several roses that I wanted to put around the edge of this. I had decided I was going to use this riser in my bathroom. I have a nice old vintage lamp that I wanted to sit on it. And so I'm leaving the center pretty much open and putting all of the roses around the outside. I continued adding roses until I had the entire outside of the riser covered with roses. And then I went back in with a few small pieces I had cut off to fill in any of the empty spaces. I thought I was done, but I looked at it and I still saw one small empty space that needed something. So I went back and found a tiny rose um, that was growing from a bunch of roses, and I cut it out and used it. The nice thing about the transfers is you don't have to use them exactly as they are presented to you in the packet. You can cut them up, you can layer them, you can use just bits and pieces, whatever you need. I just love the transfers. They're absolutely beautiful. You do have to seal in your transfers once you have them on. You can use a top coat or wax. I decided to go with a satin top coat in this case. The last step in finishing this project was to use some antiquing wax. So here I'm applying it to the base, trying to get it down into all the detail. I think it's just beautiful. It does look old. It does look like it's made of stone. I also decided to go ahead and use some of the antiquing wax on the top because even though I had sanded it, I still had some crackle from the original milk paint I had put on it showing around the edges, and so I wanted to bring out that crackle as well as give this a vintage look. Once I had applied the wax, then I just used a soft shop towel to wipe it off. I went back and added more if there were places that I didn't think I got enough. I'm absolutely thrilled with the way this riser turned out. I think it's beautiful. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments. For project 2, I took this canister that I thrifted at the Salvation Army for $3 and decided I would give it a look that was more in tune with my type of decor. I took it outside and gave it a coat of shellac, and then after that dried, I gave it a coat of Rust-Oleum in espresso brown. In case any of the paint chipped, I wanted the brown to show through and not the rusty red. I decided I wasn't going to paint the inside. That looked fine to me, but I did want to make sure I got it all around the rim. Once I had finished with 2 coats of paint on both the canister and the lid, I went back in with a sponge and painted it with a light 3rd coat to get rid of the brush strokes. I'm not a fan of brush strokes, and I worried about whether or not the brush strokes would show up when I used dark wax on it. I realize it is an extra step, but it's worth it to me. I did the same process on the lid and then set the 2 pieces aside to dry. After the pieces had dried, I got out some clear wax. This is Debbie's DIY clear wax. It's very soft, very easy to use. I gave both the canister and the lid a heavy coat of wax, making sure I got it down into the details. I always use clear wax before I go in with dark wax to make sure that I can wipe back as much of the dark as I want. It's easier to wipe it back and add more than to add too much in the beginning and not be able to get it off. Before adding any dark wax, I needed to go back with my shop towels and wipe away all of the excess clear wax. As I said, I put a pretty heavy coat on it to ensure that I wouldn't get the paint too dark with the dark wax. So I really took my time in getting that off. And then once I was happy with that, I started adding the dark wax. And this is Fusion's Furniture Wax in Espresso. And then I took a shop towel and started wiping that back. And you can see how the wax gets down into the details of that pattern that's on the canister, and I absolutely love that look. I have one brush that I dedicate to wax, and so as you saw there, I just wiped it off with a shop towel, and I leave it like that. I don't ever clean it. And now I'm going in with that shop towel and cleaning off the excess wax from the lid. I couldn't be happier with the way this turned out. It's exactly as I had envisioned it in my mind. I dropped a plant in there. I think it looks amazing. I think you could also fill it with some styrofoam, some Spanish moss at the top, maybe some green moss and a bird's nest with a bird sitting on the edge and a few eggs in the nest. I could also use it in my kitchen to hold my antique spools. There are just so many things that you can do with it. I love the way that it turned out. I hope you like it too. For Project 3, I finally did something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and that's upcycle one of my washboards. I collected these years ago when I was living in Nebraska, and they hung in my laundry room, and really I didn't do anything to them. I was kind of the purist when it came to antiques, like you don't mess with them, you leave them like they are. But I have enough that I felt like I could sacrifice at least one. So I'm going to add decoupage paper to it. So the first step would be to paint it white. Now this paper came from an exclusive paper I got by being a subscriber to Sonnet's Maker's Box of Sonnet's Garden Bloom. So if you're interested in that, check out her channel or her website. But I absolutely love cardinals. I don't think they are just for Christmas. They are one of my favorite birds, but one that I have rarely seen in nature because they don't exist in Nebraska, at least in the western part of the state where I live, definitely not in Las Vegas. When I decoupage, I lay down a strip of the medium, and then I spray the paper with water so that the fibers will stretch. And in this case, because this is a washboard, I go into each of the little rivets, creases, whatever you want to call them, and I use my paintbrush to make sure that I get the paper pushed down into that. As you might have noticed, the paper was longer than the washboard when I started, but I knew that doing this was going to take up a few inches, and so I didn't want to cut off any of the excess until I was completely done. I continued the process until I got all the way to the top of the washboard, and now I'm going back and giving the decoupage paper a coat of the medium to seal it from the outside. Now you notice along the edges the decoupage paper wasn't quite white enough, and so I will take care of that in a few minutes. Right now I have mixed some more of the heirloom blue into that mixture I used on my pedestal, and I am painting the wood with the heirloom blue. I think it really picks up the blue behind the cardinal in the decoupage paper. Once I was finished with the blue, I then set about the task of trying to mix a color that would match the decoupage paper. I had a little bit that I had pulled off the top when I finished decoupaging it on, and now I'm just using different colors to try and come up with a match. I started with a yellow, brown, orange, and white, but it wasn't quite the color I wanted, and I noticed that the decoupage paper actually had a little hint of green in it, and so I added just a touch of green to my mixture, and then I put some of that on the decoupage paper and decided that was what I needed to go with. And so now I'm going along the edge and painting that white that was sticking out so that I get everything to blend in with the decoupage paper. And the nice thing about blending is if you mix the wrong colors and you put it on and it doesn't look quite right, remember it's paint, you can go back and fix it. Now I am staying true to my roots here in that I'm not going to decoupage anything over the top of the manufacturer's name. I'm also not going to put any transfers or anything like that. I want it to just shine in its own glory, and so I'm using some Sweet Pickins dark oil wax to bring out the warmth in that wood and to give more definition to the name of the company, which I believe is Bearer, but I'm not sure. Okay, I put plenty of wax on there and let it soak in for a good 20 minutes, maybe longer. And then I wiped some of that back and I started waxing the blue paint with clear wax, followed by my antiquing furniture wax. Again, I like things that are vintage. I don't like them to look brand new. This washboard definitely is not brand new, and so I wanted to try to take it back to the era in which it was made. After I had finished with all of the wax, I then grabbed my dark and decrepit dust from DIY. I use a little wax to put along the edges because that makes the dust stick very well. I wanted to go all the way around the decoupage paper, making it look aged and like some dirt had settled in there over the years. And so I just continue a process of adding wax and decrepit dust until I get the look that I'm going for. Once I had finished with the decrepit dust around the decoupage paper, I decided to put some on a shop towel and go over the areas I had waxed. I didn't really feel like that dark furniture wax had given it enough grunge, but the decrepit dust will definitely do that. You can see here how the dust settles down into the wood, just as it would have over the years. Once I was finished distressing it, then I got out some top coat and gave both the top of the sign and the decoupage paper a good coat of top coat. I think this was a satin one, so it does have just a little bit of a sheen. Nothing like a gloss, but a little better than flat matte. I hope you love this transformation as much as I do. As I said, I was very hesitant over the years to do anything with the washboards, but now that I've finished this one, I have my eyes set on a couple others. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you've stayed with me this long, thank you so much for sticking around. It truly means a lot to me. I hope that you will give my channel a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe if you have not done so already. I'd also like it if you could share my content with others that you think might like it. I will be returning to Southern California this week, and so next Tuesday I will plan a video from sunny Southern California. Have a great week. See you then.